Perfect.
Okay.
All right. You ready to do this?
Yes.
All right. Welcome back to Absolutely the Best Podcast, A Work in Progress. I'm Zach. With me, as always, is my good friend George.
Hello, hello.
This is Series 1, Episode 8, and today we're going to be talking about the second Thor movie, Thor: The Dark World. After we discuss the movie, we'll figure out where to place it in our MCU movie ranking. As a reminder, we assume the listener has seen the movie before, and of course, there will be spoilers. So, George, did you want to start us off with your initial thoughts?
Just getting into it, eh?
If you want to chat about something else first, that's fine. But
I think we can get into it.
Okay.
I think I really braced myself for this one because I just didn't remember liking Thor 2 at all. And I'm glad I set my expectations accordingly because it just wasn't as bad as I remember it being. It wasn't Iron Man 3 bad. Mm-hmm. So this movie itself, I don't remember really thinking or feeling one way or another about this movie coming out. The first Thor wasn't too shabby. But it also didn't really blow me away like Captain America or Iron Man, so I wasn't really expecting too much from Thor 2. I am glad that Ragnarok was as awesome as it was, but and it's just a really nice take on Thor, but I can jump on that next time. But automatically, I think this already had the upper hand over Iron Man 3 because Natalie Portman's in it.
Yes,
so
of course. Well, you had me at I don't remember this movie. Because I didn't remember it. I've seen it a few times. I'm sure of it, and I'm sure that I saw it in the theater. But I mysteriously can't locate my movie ticket stub. So it's possible that I didn't see it in the theater, but I'm pretty sure I did. I've forgotten everything about it every time I've watched it, except for this time because I was taking notes and I've reviewed it so much. The one part that I do remember from it is the part that they show in Endgame, but that's also not technically from this movie because it was a cutscene. Thor: The Dark World is the 8th movie in the MCU series. It's directed by Alan Taylor. I guess Kenneth Branagh just said he didn't want to do another one. I think maybe they were doing it a little too soon for him. I don't know if he would have wanted to do it later anyway. I read a little bit about it. Like most of the movie, I forgot a lot of what I read about this. It was almost directed by Patty Jenkins, who did Wonder Woman, amongst other things. But she left due to creative differences. She says they were on good terms, but couldn't come to an agreement on how to do the movie, I guess.
Did not know that.
I didn't either until doing a little research. Alan Taylor, who is the director of this one, he didn't direct any movies that I ever saw before this, but after this one, he did Terminator Genesis and The Many Saints of New York. I like both those movies. A lot of people don't like Terminator Genesis, and I'm not going to argue with them, but I liked it. It was good enough.
I like the last two Terminator movies.
Yeah, they're both better than the one before that, which was...
I'm all for another one after it, too, if they keep pumping them out.
They're all... At the worst, they're all okay, at least.
Like everybody panned the Christian Bale one, and I really like that one.
Yeah, it had its moments. That's the worst one for me, but it's
not the best
fine.
one. Yeah.
I've rewatched it fairly recently. I was like, it's not bad.
Yep.
Let's see. Alan Taylor has also directed a bunch of TV I've seen, including various episodes of Homicide: Life on the Street, and R.I.P. Andre Braugher. He's also done episodes of Oz, The Sopranos, Deadwood, Lost, Boardwalk Empire, and Game of Thrones, just to name a few. So he's got some pedigree there.
Yeah.
This one had a story. Go ahead.
When you said R.I.P., I was like, oh no.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, it's not new news, I guess, at this point, but it still feels fresh.
Oh no, I thought you meant the movie R.I.P.
Oh
so
no!
Man, this guy.
The R.I.P.D.
Yeah, R.I.P.D.
Yeah.
That's what.
Didn't they make two of those?
Huh? I think they made two of those.
Oh,
the second one was not.
I didn't watch the second one. Yeah, I didn't watch the second one. I didn't think the first one was worth watching. Sorry, Ryan Reynolds. And the dude, what's his name? Jeff Jeff Bridges. Thank you. This one has a story by credit. And so Don Payne and Robert Rodat apparently wrote the original story for it. Don Payne was the screenwriter for the first Thor movie, so we probably already discussed him at the first Thor movie. Robert Rodat, the only thing I saw that he has done was Saving Private Ryan, which is a good movie.
Yeah.
The actual screenplay was by Christopher L. Yost, Christopher Marcus, and Stephen McFeely. Yost has mostly written animated superhero movies and TV shows, not just Marvel stuff, but all kinds of different animated superhero stuff. But he also gets a credit on Thor Ragnarok. And we already discussed Marcus and McFeely in the Captain America, the first Avengers episode, in which George ruined my Lazy Sunday Chronicles of Narnia joke with his knowledge of West Coast hip hop.
Sorry.
I don't know if anybody even picked up on that. Suffice it to say, they write a bunch of the good Marvel stuff.
Yeah.
So the main characters in Thor 2, let's continue to discuss the characters up top. Seems to be working. Good guys are mostly the same from Thor 1, so we can probably rip through this pretty quick. Chris Hemsworth returns as Thor. He's looking good. Tom Hiddleston returns as Loki. Also looking good. Anthony Hopkins returns as Odin. I'm glad he didn't sleep through most of this one. That was a nice change. Rene Russo returns as Frigga. She has a much bigger part in this one, which is good. Apparently, they had cut her part down quite a bit in Thor 1.
I still didn't think it was big enough. I really like it.
No, it definitely wasn't. They cut her out of it almost entirely. That was the problem.
I mean, even in the second one.
Oh, in this one, yeah,
big enough,
I got you. No, yeah, I agree. And well, spoiler alert, she dies, so she's not in any of the other ones. I guess she's in Endgame. Yeah. That's great. I have something about that later. Idris Elba returns as Heimdall. He's also not in this movie enough. We got a new guy, Tony Curran as Bor, who's Odin's dad. He's got a small part, but this guy rules. I like him a lot. He's kind of like a younger version of Charles Dance.
I was gonna say, I haven't really seen too many things that I recognize his name in.
I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but when I had to look up who it was because I didn't even recognize him. I'm like, oh, that dude, he's awesome. Jamie Alexander returns as Sif. She's also looking good. Ray Stevenson returns as Volstagg. R.I.P. again to that guy. That's a bummer. Tadanobu Asano returns as Hogun. He's not in this one a whole lot. And fucking Zachary Levi gets subbed in as Fandral. Fuck that guy. The dye job. Sorry?
I said, I concur.
Yeah. Also, he looks bad. Like he's got a bad dye job on his hair, kind of like Thor did in the first movie. Could they have found someone else who looked more like Josh Dallas? Who played
one of the
Fandral
Hemsworth brothers?
Exactly. Well, exactly. And I was like, well, what Hemsworth brothers are available? And I mean, I feel like Luke Hemsworth would have done it. He would have fit the part better.
Probably.
George's favorite, Natalie Portman, returns as Jane Foster.
Yes.
Stellan Skarsgård returns as Eric Selvig, and he's looking a little worse for wear in this one, but it's kind of his character. If you recall, he was pretty much mind-fucked by Loki 2 movies ago, so he's going to have a little emotional damage from that. The bad guys. Christopher Eccleston as Malekith, ruler of the Dark Elves of Svartalheim, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Highly underrated actor, in my opinion. Second best Doctor as well, if you're a Doctor Who fan. He plays a total creep in Shallow Grave and in 28 Days Later. So he's got range.
Oh, 28 Days Later, I was like, this guy looks so. I mean, I knew he was like one of the Doctor Who guys, but in 28 Days Later, I was like, it took me a while when you were saying that, and it just clicked who he was in 28 Days Later.
Yeah. So yeah, if you haven't watched that in a while, that one holds up. Okay, I'm gonna try really hard on this one. I even put in some phonetics here. Adewale Akinoi Abaji as Algrim, which is Malekith's right-hand man.
Yeah, I would have read it like that.
Okay. You would have read it out like that without the phonetics? Wow, good for you. I should have let you do this. He's in a whole bunch of stuff. Too much to list, but you probably know him best as Mr. Echo in Lost. Doesn't look like him at all in this, but that's the same guy. Some other characters. Kat Dennings returns as Darcy Lewis. Jonathan Howard as the intern. Ian Boothby. I've got no notes.
Such a stupid and unnecessary character. I kind of just really disliked him every time he was on the screen.
Yeah. I mean, I barely noticed he was in the movie, and for the listener, we actually cut him out of the show notes entirely. So, he didn't even matter. You won't miss him. Chris O'Dowd shows up as a character named Richard, who's a guy who goes on about a half of a date with Jane. I always like to see him get work. I like Chris O'Dowd a lot.
Yeah.
Benicio del Toro as the collector. I forgot that he showed up this early, and then I also forgot that we're only 2 movies away from Guardians of the Galaxy, so I guess it's not that early. Mm. And of course, last but not least, my favorite, Chris Evans as Loki masquerading as Captain America.
That was a pretty awesome cameo.
Yes. I forgot about it totally. It was great. I was like, oh, sweet. So let's, by the way, in the extras, there's like an alternate take where it's Tom Hiddleston in the Captain America costume instead of it being Chris Evans.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'll have to look at that.
Yeah. I like the Chris Evans one better though. So let's dive into Thor: The Dark World. Did you notice the different Marvel theme opening in this one? I guess they're all a little bit different, but this one's like much more dramatic. It's very different.
I don't really pay too much attention to the little Marvel. You're talking about the logo with the fanning pages.
Yeah,
effect?
yeah.
I just assume it gets updated little by little after every movie.
It does. There's a YouTube video that has them all, including like different animated things. But they more or less go in chronological order, and so it's kind of skipping through, and it's like, oh, they are, it is a little bit different for each one, but this one's like drastically different.
Huh. No, I didn't. Good to know.
Anyway, do you want to kick us off here on the main discussion?
Yeah, so lucky for us and for you, there is no weird time jump, and it's just Odin right off the bat setting the stage with a bunch of exposition.
Yeah. I did appreciate that they did not do the out of sequence storytelling. And I liked the exposition. Usually I'm all about show and don't tell, but I thought it worked here, and Odin's pretty cool, and you can he's telling an old story. So it makes sense. Odin talks about before the birth of light, there was darkness, and from the darkness came the dark elves. He talks about Malekith, who is the most ruthless of the dark elves. A millennia ago, he wanted to turn the universe back to eternal night with something called the Aether.
Yeah.
And the Aether is an ancient force of infinite destruction.
AKA some floating gravity-defying sludge.
Yes, it was not very well defined.
Was it just me, or like when you look at the dark elves, do they not look like a bunch of elves wearing Michael Myers masks?
I saw your note and I was like, no, I didn't. And I went back and looked. I was like, well, if I squint my eyes, I could see it.
It's kind of like a weird, yeah.
Maybe you need new glasses.
Maybe it's just me. Maybe I do need new glasses.
So Odin continues, once in a millennia, the 9 realms align, and this is when Malekith needs to unleash the Aether. Odin's dad, King Bor, led the Asgardians in a war against the Dark Elves to stop him. And so they're showing these battle scenes that I thought looked really good for what has to be a whole bunch of green screens and digital effects, right? I mean, that didn't look practical, but it looked really good to me.
Yeah, wasn't too bad. Not too shabby at all. Yeah, so some random no-name dark elf hulks out and turns into one of the cursed.
Yeah.
And it turns out I guess when you have this rock and you smash it with your hands, you get infected by something that makes you Hulk out.
Yeah, it was. I was a little confused by that at first, but yeah, it's like some elf guy in a special, not Michael Myers mask. It looked like a Brazil nut he was holding. He breaks that, and it kind of had this Extremis like effect, like from Iron Man 3. So it was triggering my PTSD. Mm. But so that allows him to berserk out and fight like crazy, and I don't know, I guess he's super strong or something. And it looked like there was a few of the cursed in that opening scene.
I guess they had a number of those Brazil nuts.
Yeah. I mean, you can get them by the bushel.
Right. Well, apparently as of the middle part of this movie, that there was only one left. But But yeah, I guess they turn almost as strong as the Hulk if they're able to knock Thor aside.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. Yeah, they're definitely really strong. I do like that it's cursed with a K. By the way, that's kind of metal. I dig it.
that. Yeah, then Asgard. I'm assuming not Heimdall, but Heimdall's predecessor used the Rainbow Bridge to steal the ether, so the Dark Elves end up losing. And they don't look like such a tough army without the ether, I suppose.
No, they got wiped out pretty quickly. Yeah, so without the Aether, the Dark Elves fell. Malekith ditches out and leaves, I guess, most of the rest of the Dark Elves to fight to the death.
I don't know. I got kind of annoyed when I saw like, oh, hey, it's the invisible cloaking field effect. I guess the Dark Elves came up with it first, so their ships go invisible. And I don't know, like while it was going up, I don't see how anybody fighting down in the main battle didn't see that there was one big ship escaping.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Why would they assume that all of the Dark Elves died in that one battle?
Well, I wasn't in the fight, but I did think that it was. I thought just that Malekith and maybe Elgrim got away.
Mm.
Like I thought that was it, and then like later on, there's a bunch more elves. I was like, oh, okay, he didn't just ditch all of them.
Right.
So I fell for the trick, I guess, is what I'm saying. So the elves are defeated, and Bor says to bury the Aether deep where no one will find it because it can't be destroyed on account of its power is too great. So I thought it was a strong opening, but I swear to God, it was like the first time I ever saw the movie. I've remembered none of it.
It was an okay opening for me.
Okay.
But I did like Anthony Hopkins' voice.
Yes. Yeah.
I would welcome him to do my voicemail anytime.
Nice. Yeah,
I would pay him. Actually, there was one thing that bugged me about that opening is why didn't King Bor just give everybody that same spear? Like everybody was running around with swords and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And why didn't he just give at least 2 other people the same spear that he had?
If I had to guess, I would say because then they might try to become king in his place. Like it might be a power thing. I don't know. Maybe they don't. Why doesn't everybody get a Mjolnir?
Right. But I mean, he could have put the same kind of spell on Mjolnir.
Yeah.
Or not on Mjolnir, on the spears, right?
I suppose.
And then say like, hey.
You got me there.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. He like just kind of waved it around and then obliterated everybody in front of him. So I was like, just do that. Anyway.
So now, I thought I had you there, but your criticism is valid. I validate your criticism, George. Current day in Asgard. This seems to pick up at the end of Avengers. So I guess it's before Iron Man 3. I think Iron Man 3 takes place about 6 months after the Avengers. I'm just kind of guessing there because they're clearly not happening at the same time, right?
Yeah, because he brought Loki in,
right? Yeah, so
in chains, so he's pretty much right after event,
right?
The first movie,
right,
or the first Avengers.
Yeah. So Loki's being led in chains to meet with Odin.
Odin was looking a little long in the tooth here by like a couple of thousand years, I felt like, and then I guess the Loki being kind of a dick to his mom, and seeing Renee Russo, that scene just kind of made me go like, man, I hope they have so much more of her in this movie. Because she really needs to be more active in the Thor franchise.
Yeah. What took me aback was the part when Odin says he wants to speak to the prisoner alone and sends Frigga off, but all the guards stay. And I was like, holy patriarchy, Batman. So Loki says that Loki's talking to Odin about, his little mix up on Earth.
Yep.
And he says he tried to rule the people of the earth as a benevolent god, which doesn't really sound like what he tried to do. But Odin says,
we are not gods. We're born, we live, we die, just as humans do.
And I only bring that up because it's important for some complaints that I have later.
Okay.
Then there's an exchange with Odin and Loki.
All this because Loki desires a throne.
It is my birthright.
Your birthright was today.
And he's not wrong.
True.
Yeah.
He wasn't.
It's a little harsh, though. Well, I guess.
Cold, hard truth.
Yeah, but I guess Loki had it coming, though. He was the bad guy in Avengers. So, and then Loki has the final line of that conversation, I think, where he says,
If I'm for the axe, then for mercy's sake, just swing it. It's not that I don't love our little talks, it's just... I don't love them.
I like that. That's pretty good. Tom Hiddleston
Yep.
doing his finest work.
He's good.
Yeah. So basically what it boils down to is Frigga is the only reason he's alive, and he's going to spend the rest of his days in the dungeons of Asgard. And at this point is when I noticed that autocorrect kept changing Frigga to Fridge.
The one part that kind of stuck out to me was when Odin was explaining to Loki that, well, now your brother has to go bring order to the 9 realms before he gets to be king. And it just felt like, man, they just keep moving this goalpost for Thor. Because wasn't he like about to be king at the end of the first Thor movie too? And now he has to bring order back.
He was certainly
to
a lot closer, yeah.
all 9 realms, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he wraps that up pretty quickly though.
But also, like, why were the 9 realms affected? Oh, well, I guess because they broke the Rainbow Bridge.
Yes.
Or Loki was it was Loki's fault the Rainbow Bridge had to be broken.
Yes.
Yeah.
Although Thor's the one who broke it.
Fair.
Meanwhile, Sif and the Warriors 3 are fighting some bad guys at Hogun's home realm of Vanaheim. And this scene opens with Sif absolutely kicking asses. She was doing the Lord's work. I thought this was another one that was a pretty good battle. Although this one looks like a real setting to me. Probably
You mean like a practical set?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
An actual...
Yeah, or maybe even actually outdoors.
Yeah. Yeah, then I guess Thor arrives just in time to pound the ground with Mjolnir and a bunch of electricity. Which like kind of makes me wonder, like, if everybody's fighting around and stuff, how do you know your electricity is not gonna hit your own folks? So like, how useful is that move really?
I'm not positive
when you're fighting.
Yeah, I'm not positive, but I think he was only surrounded by the bad guys. But
he was. I guess he jumped in the middle of a bunch of them when he did it.
But you got to be really sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like it's a really non-accurate. It's like a very hard to be accurate move when you're in a big fight and your folks are everywhere.
Right. Yeah, it's not something you want to whip out in a team battle.
Yeah. And then the battle actually stops and it's interrupted by a Cronin, which is the race that Korg belongs to, who doesn't show up until like Ragnarok.
Oh, it's the same. It's the same race.
Yeah, it's the same race.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
The Cronin race.
Yeah.
So this guy looks a lot bigger than Korg. He's like almost 2 or 3 times Korg's size.
Yeah, it was pretty big.
But it looks like Korg also wouldn't last well against Mjolnir.
No,
because he gets hammered pretty bad.
Yep.
And then everyone surrenders because that's how battles are won in comic book.
I mean,
movies.
I guess if I saw Thor wreck a giant rock ogre in one swing, I'd probably give up too.
Fair, yeah.
I love the sound though that Mjolnir makes in this movie. I mean, in every movie, I can't get enough of it. It's just, I don't know who designed that. I gotta look into that at some point. Like,
is it the hum while it's flying?
Yeah, like I don't know. Something about it just really tickles a part of my brain or something. I don't know. It's cool. So that was the final battle and a war to pacify the 9 realms following reconstruction of the Bifrost routers. I'm going to borrow your analogy from Thor 1.
It works.
Back in Asgard, Odin and Thor... Back in Asgard, Odin and Thor are sucking each other off about how great they are.
Yes. And then Odin tells Thor to stop thinking about Jane Foster and alludes to him hooking up with Sif, who, like, actually in Norse mythology is his wife.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're actually. That's why I kept on kind of expecting them to hook up eventually. But yeah, Odin basically says, "You're ready for the throne, man. The 9 realms are sorted. Good job. Like, it's yours when you want to, but you gotta stop thinking about that human." But yeah, everybody is pretty much celebrating their victory in Vanaheim, except for Thor, who proceeds to friend zone Sif. Actually,
it's funny. I also wrote Thor friend zones
Sif.
Yeah, I was like, why don't they hook up? But Thor friend zones her. Yeah, I don't. She seems like she's into him.
She is. She
And,
does.
and in my opinion, she gives Natalie Portman a run for her money, but I don't expect you to agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, Sif versus Jane Foster. I think yes.
Okay, yeah.
An argument can be
yeah.
made there.
So, but to be fair, also she could be Sif could just be a starfucker. You know, she never really showed any interest when Thor wasn't going to be king.
Wasn't what she's always liked him? I thought.
Has she? Maybe I didn't pick up on
Didn't
that.
she like him in the first movie too?
I didn't pick up on that, but it wouldn't be the first time I didn't pick up on something obvious.
Hmm.
Let's see. Also, yeah, don't skip over the scene of topless Thor washing up. You know, it was pretty steamy. I think he's bigger here than he was in Thor 1. Than he was in Thor 1.
It's a required scene for every Thor movie.
Yes. I think he might even be bigger than he was in the Avengers. But he kept his clothes on in that one, so I couldn't say for sure.
He's gotten progressively bigger.
Yeah. I mean, he gets huge in Ragnarok, right?
Yeah.
His hair's a lot longer in this movie too, so I think overall it's a good look.
Yep. So in Midgard, Natalie Portman's Jane Foster is on a super awkward date with a random boring dude who could only have been a blind date because from the topics that they were talking about, there's no way that she would have swiped right on him. He is also totally not Thor.
No.
Oh, also, she's in London now. I don't even know that pops up.
Yeah, that was. Didn't think it was explained at all. Certainly wasn't explained well. I looked into it. I was like, why is she in London? And I guess Selvig invited her to come to London to help investigate some readings of an unknown nature.
Yep.
She brought Darcy with her research assistant, or is she an intern? I don't know.
I think intern. She's an intern, right?
I guess so. Jane Foster's on a date with Richard, and Darcy shows up and crashes the date, which I didn't mind at all because she's hilarious.
Yep.
And she tells Jane that there's some weird scientific stuff happening. She has this little device with her. She says it might be related to Selvig's work, inferring that it is Thor related.
I don't know. You're a scientist.
Oh, you're talking about when Jane's like, it's not working, or she's like, something's wrong with the instrument. And she like whacks it a few times.
Yeah, I really hate that trope. It feels so lazy. Where it's like, oh, like scientists do it, Thor does it later in this movie.
If it didn't work like 3% of the time, nobody would do it. But sometimes it works.
I guess 60% of the time it works 100% of the time in all movies.
Yes,
like the scientist in Armageddon, or the Russian scientist in Armageddon, right? Like he just bangs at it because that's how Russian space scientists work or something. I forget.
It's just Russian technology.
Russian technology. Yeah.
Sorry for the Russian listener. We do have one. So Richard, the guy that was there on the date, he's understanding and tells Jane to go with Darcy. So Jane and Darcy go to some abandoned building where there's some weird scientific stuff happening.
Right. Because a bunch of kids happened upon this weird, stable gravitational anomaly.
Yeah, there's some weird things going on. The primary thing here being that you can drop stuff down a stairwell, and a lot of it will teleport back up to the top, and then it kind of drops indefinitely. But sometimes something disappears. And one of the kids is like, sometimes they come back, sometimes they don't. I wouldn't even mention it, but it comes back later in the movie. And Jane says something to the effect of, I haven't seen readings like this since New Mexico, which is where the first Thor movie took place.
Yep. And then Jane takes herself and her tricorder and ignores all the classic horror signs and goes down a dark alley with wind coming from out of nowhere, blowing leaves all over the place.
Totally safe place to be. I don't see a problem. Right. I also, in my notes, called it a tricorder. So we are both.
That's what it looked like, exactly.
We're definitely both Star Trek nerds.
Yep.
So she ends up getting dragged into a portal to wherever the Aether is. And I'm going to be saying portal a lot in this movie. And I want to clarify that it's not like something that you can see. It's just like you just kind of disappear and go into another place. I don't have a better word for it other than portal. So she's where the ether is, and stupidly she approaches the ether and it attacks her and goes in her. And obviously she freaks out and then passes out.
I mean, it doesn't even attack her. She sticks her hand over towards it to try to feel it, and it just jumped on her. Since I don't know, I guess King Boar was an idiot and just kind of left it there unguarded, no spells. Because even the treasure, even the weapon room in the in Asgard
Yeah.
had spells and stuff,
Yeah, that's
right?
a
And the
good point.
and the destroyer was there watching it. Why didn't it have a destroyer?
Yeah, I feel like
now I'm starting to overthink
yeah,
this.
that's actually no, that's a really good point. Why didn't they have? I mean, could they only make one destroyer? And I mean,
No.
yeah, like
They could've.
they could have had one down there watching over it.
Yeah.
That's there we
But
go.
I also hated how like this the ether was like this sludge that shrieks. It just like I guess they needed to.
That sounds like a bad horror movie. Ether, the sludge that shrieks.
But like every time it moved, right, it was like a weird shrieking sound
Yeah.
to it that didn't make sense to me. I was just kind of really annoyed that everybody knows it's a really powerful weapon, and no guards, no spells, no destroyer, just nothing. It's just hanging out in this place.
Well, coincidentally, up until this point, I was thinking it was a pretty good movie, especially after Iron Man 3, but it was starting to get a little hokey for me at this point.
Right.
So then we go to deep space somewhere in Malekith's spaceship that he had ditched out on at the beginning of the movie. And it starts lighting up and he comes out of hypersleep or something.
Is this a coincidence? I think not.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess his ship was either keeping an eye out for anything ether related, or like, does he have a millennial alarm clock? I don't mean like millennial as in you were born in this, like once every 1,000 years, the alarm clock goes off because of the convergence. Anyways, Malekith wakes up and says the ether awakens, the convergence awaits us. And then we go back to Asgard, where Thor and Heimdall are talking about the convergence. Heimdall is explaining it to Thor and says, few can sense it, even fewer can see it. And then Thor asks how Jane is, and Heimdall says she's studying the convergence as well.
And then it's like, oh shit, Heimdall can't see Jane. Why can't he see her? Isn't she just in the same room that Ether was in? And as the guy that is supposed to be watching the entire cosmos, shouldn't he know where the ether is? Or does he know where the ether is? Or like, shouldn't he be keeping an eye on it?
Yeah, I feel like at the very least he should have known where she just was. Like like Find My iPhone. Like it relays its last position before it powers down. But I don't know. I guess since the ether is made from darkness, maybe he can't see. Like maybe it's not like literal darkness, or maybe it is, and like I don't know. Maybe he just can't see into the darkness. I don't know.
Like the port? You mean the place where she was with the?
Well, because I'm just saying now that the ether is in her, now he can't see her. Just guessing.
But then he sent Thor to her exact location.
This is a good point. Right, so it had to have been like where she was.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe he did it based on where she was when he last looked at her.
Okay, well, yeah, it's definitely a dangling thread there.
Yeah.
So then we cut to Jane taking a mental health day at the Ether Spa as she wakes up back in the building where she had met the kids. The cops are there because Darcy couldn't find her, and she was gone 5 hours, even though it was seemed like a couple of minutes of movie time.
Yep.
Shortly after, Thor shows up and she slaps him to be sure he's real. Then again, because she's mad.
Oh yeah, this is where it happened to be raining everywhere, but not around Jane.
Mm-hmm.
Did that ever get explained? Like why?
They never explained it, but I just assumed that was Thor making it not rain on her. I don't know. Huh. Somebody thought it was clever, so it went in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I guess yeah. I just didn't know that was within Thor's power set, I guess. So the cops that were there try to arrest Jane because she and her friends were trespassing, and the ether reacts, and Thor decides to bring her home to Asgard.
Yeah, it was like this weird like ether explosion from within Jane.
Yeah.
So that was a little strange. So back in Asgard again, there's some healers who are looking at Jane to figure out what's wrong with her. And one of them says she will not survive the amount of energy surging within her. Odin says, he's so cold. Odin says she is mortal. Illness is their defining trait. But didn't he also just say that Asgardians are mortal a little while ago? He said, "We are not gods. We are born. We live. We die." So, yeah.
He did.
I mean, they live a lot longer for sure, but it seemed like kind of an unnecessary dig.
I mean, he is the protector of the 9 realms.
Yes. Regardless, Odin delivers a solid burn, saying,
She does not belong here in Asgard any more than a goat belongs at a banquet table.
and then the guards try to grab her, but then they get blasted with another aether explosion thingy, which is the infection defending itself. Then Odin starts explaining. I feel like he's kind of going back to the beginning of the movie again, but he says,
There are relics that predate the universe itself. What lies within her appears to be one of them.
And he tells everybody the story of the ether and how the dark elves actually reigned supreme before the dawn of the 9 realms. So I guess they were all just running around in the dark.
"Yeah, I don't follow that
like,
either."
I don't really know what you do when there's no light.
Right, you feel your way around,
or sleep, right?
not so bad.
So then Malekith, I guess, decided he could make a weapon out of the ether. And there was a nice nod to the other Infinity Stones and their existence, because they specifically mentioned how the others were actual stones, but the ether was this darkness and clearly not a stone. It wasn't actually a stone until I think Thanos turned it into a stone, and they don't show that in Endgame.
Right. Well, no, I think at the end of this, it's in a stone when they give it to the Collector, maybe.
Oh,
I'm not sure.
I thought there was just the same red sludge.
Maybe. I don't know.
in the box.
I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, at some point it gets turned into a stone. I think you misspoke. You said Malekith made a weapon of the ether. Isn't the ether the weapon that he made from the darkness?
Oh, I don't know. I thought it was he made the weapon.
Either way,
Yeah, I thought it was.
either way,
yeah.
either way, I'm confused because I was like, wait a minute. Now they're saying that Malekith made the aether, because in the opening scene, it seemed like the aether was just there, like it just existed. And also, didn't Odin just say that it's a relic that existed before the universe?
Right.
So
I think what they meant was that Malekith has weaponized the ether.
okay,
Maybe that's what they meant.
So when you misspoke, you didn't misspeak.
I mean, he made a. Well, I mean, yeah. I said I think I quoted exactly as Malekith made a weapon of that darkness. So
I think that is doing a lot of the heavy lifting in that sentence.
Another the jazz hands.
We're gonna get the lawyers on this one. Okay, all right. I guess that's passable.
Yeah.
So let's see. I think we said that the other relics often appear as stones, but the aether is a fluid and ever changing. It changes matter into dark matter. It seeks out bodies, drawing strength from their life force. So then there's more recap about Bor killing all the dark elves, and Thor says that the aether was said to have been destroyed. So I guess Bor lied about that. I mean, we know from the beginning of the movie that he didn't destroy it, but I guess he said that it was. He must have said that it was destroyed, which makes sense. Sorry,
but it also looks like Odin. I mean, he must have told Odin because Odin knew exactly what he was looking at when he saw it inside Jane.
Yeah, I guess maybe he knew, and it makes sense because if everybody knew that the aether was still around, somebody's going to go looking for it, right?
Yeah.
But also, how did he keep a lid on that secret? And certainly he did not, because somebody found it.
Right.
Well, I guess she found it accidentally.
Yeah.
So I wanted to have a I want to derail our discussion here entirely because it's got to be around here somewhere that there's a scene that was cut out of this movie that they used in Endgame, because for those of you who might not know all the little minutia of the trivia of Endgame, Natalie Portman was not available to film for it, but they had some unused footage from this movie that they used for that. So she appears very briefly in there. I think she's walking into some room with Frigga and some guards. Yeah. But it's not clear to me when in this movie that Endgame time travel segment occurs. There's no deleted scenes in this movie that were in the extras anyway. that were the same one that was used in Endgame. And so then I went and I rewatched that scene from Endgame. I didn't have time to watch the whole thing, otherwise I would have. But I went and rewatched that one part in Endgame to try to, get a clue as to what I was looking for. And man, it's brutal. It's like I almost cried right away. And that's not even like the most emotional part of Endgame. But when
Rene Russo was great.
Yeah. So
in that moment for Endgame,
and Chris Hemsworth as like Fat Thor in there, he's like so emotional. Man, it's so good. I can't wait to get to that one.
Yeah,
that's gonna be like, that might need to be 2 episodes. I don't know. That's gonna be tough. It's gonna be a long one. Anyways, so obviously that scene that's used in Endgame, cut from this, it must have happened before Frigga dies, obviously, right?
Yeah.
And it seemed kind of like it was during some kind of a party, maybe, but there was very little time between Frigga meeting Jane and Frigga dying.
Right.
So
I think it was. So I think it happened right when the attack happened, actually, and she told, right, when she tells Natalie Portman, "You have to do exactly what I say."
Yes.
And then we find out later that they split up.
Yep.
So it happened somewhere in between that and when she died, because Rocket Raccoon had to go find Jane Foster separately, because remember Jane took off with like some of the soldiers.
It's kind of what I thought, and then I went and rewatched that part in Endgame, and that scene where they're just walking by in the background, they didn't seem to have any sense of urgency or anything. But maybe that was it. Maybe that was it.
Yeah.
But also, like, at the same time, I don't even care if it matches up and makes sense. Like, the payoff in Endgame is worth it either way. Like, maybe I shouldn't be picking at it. I don't want to I don't want to ruin it, but I don't know.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, sorry. I was really thinking about that for a long time and trying to figure it out, and thought it was worth discussing.
Yeah.
So, back on Malekith's ship, he says the worlds are nearly aligned, and it looks like he's got a handful of elves still around. He tells his good buddy Algrim that he's going to need to go full cursed, and then Algrim gets stabbed, and then one of those Brazil nut things gets put in to the stab hole. And I was confused at first because at the beginning of the movie, nobody gets stabbed. They just like break that thing, right? I didn't realize that he was putting it there to smuggle it into to Asgard, and like, I don't know, I would have just like, couldn't he just hide it in his ass or something? Like,
that's what I was wondering. I was like, why didn't he just put it in the prison wallet?
Yeah. I don't know if I've heard that term before. That's pretty good. Anyways, so there's some smaller ships that launch away from Malekith's big ship, and then then we just see Algrim being escorted in Asgard through the Bifrost. Like, it was just like the sudden jump, and I don't know how we got there, and I was starting to lose the continuity in this movie.
I assumed that he had joined some uprising, and where that the Asgardians were putting down, and then he let himself get caught.
That makes sense.
Put to prison.
Yeah, that makes sense. But like, whatever version of the movie I watched, it was just, he was on the ship 1 minute, and then the next thing he's like strolling into Asgard, being escorted in by guards, right? Anyways.
Yeah, it was really bad editing, I guess, on that part.
So in Asgard, Thor tells Jane about the convergence now, and he says it happens every 5,000 years. So that's once in every 5 millennia, not once every millennia, as they had previously stated earlier in the movie.
Yeah, I wonder if that was a mistake.
Yeah, I don't know. Either way, it seems like pretty frequent on a universal timescale that 9 realms would line up so frequently.
Mm.
He's talking about during the convergence, the borders between worlds become blurred. So that's our explanation for why the invisible teleportation portal spots happen, whatever you want to call it. And Thor also says that he's going to find a way to save her. Then we have the Asgardian dungeon. Loki is just kind of chilling out in what's arguably a pretty nice cell. There's a bunch of people in various cells, and Algrim is in one of them. He digs that dark matter thingy out of his abdomen and then crushes it and goes full cursed. Kills the people in the cell with him, like breaks out raging, kills the guards, breaks out more people. So there's a riot in the dungeons now that Thor has to go investigate, and Frigga is going to watch after Jane, and that's the part that you said where she tells Jane, "Do exactly what I say," right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the I thought this was pretty funny. One of the warriors, I think it was Volstagg, is like,
It's as if they resent being in prison.
Oh, it was actually Fandral.
was it Fandral?
Yeah.
I'm gonna cut this out.
That's why I didn't even bring that up, because I was like, oh,
Ah,
why'd they give that line to him?
yeah. I mean, it did make me laugh. I wasn't sure who said it though.
That was a good line.
So Thor tells everybody to go back in their cells and they will not be harmed.
Return to yourselves. No further harm will come to you. You have my word.
Nobody agrees to that deal. And then at this point, a cloaked elf ship shows up at Asgard, and Heimdall gets on it. Literally, he jumps on it and he messes up the cloaking ability that it has, and the ship crashes. So I thought that was really cool of Heimdall. Like, he was pretty badass there.
Yeah.
Then Malekith's ship shows up and launches a bunch more of the little guys, the little ships. And there's a long battle scene that's pretty decent. I wasn't bored by it. Thought it was pretty good. And Heimdall fires up a shield generator around the castle just in time.
Yeah, I don't know. I felt like that he kind of took his time activating that force field.
Well, it was like a hand crank, wasn't it? Which I don't know why it's a hand crank, but
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what it was. Like, he could have done that first and then jumped on the ship that he suspected was floating by.
I guess.
Right?
But I thought they were in like totally different locations. I don't know. I mean, he kind of got a ride halfway there on the ship as he was wrecking it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter anyway, because the curse wrecks the shield generator pretty shortly thereafter. And then one of the smaller ships crashes into the throne room, which was a pretty impressive looking crash. And a bunch of dark elves pour out.
Man, these dark elves, I don't know what they were doing when they were asleep, but they seem to have come back with like brand new tech. Like they have black hole grenades.
I thought that was awesome.
No, I thought it was awesome too. And I just kind of thought that, wow, these Asgardians, considering they were the winning team in the prior big fight, those black hole grenades come in handy when idiots attack you with shields and swords.
Yeah.
Also, where did the dark elves come with? Where did they find laser guns?
They totally had them at the beginning of the movie.
Wait, they were?
Yeah.
'Cause I thought that they were only fighting with swords and stuff.
No,
too.
they had laser. They looked like they were coming straight out of Star Wars with those things.
So are the Asgardians just like stupid with their
I don't know.
with their guns and their swords and shields?
Yeah, that's a better question for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be different if like the sword shot something, but
Yeah, like Zelda, or Jesus Christ, like Link in Zelda.
Link in Zelda. Yes.
Oh, I'm gonna revoke my gaming card.
Anyway, sorry for that rant.
No, that's fine. That's what we're here for, to rant and either back up or correct one another. So during all that fighting, Malekith comes out of the crashed ship and he does a black hole grenade thingy at the throne, wrecks that. Then he goes and he finds Frigga and Jane.
Yep. And then right here is where Renee Russo just comes out a total badass, because she totally stands against him.
Yeah.
And holds her own. And it looks like she's actually about to beat him because she's such a badass.
Yeah. The Frigga fighting Malekith was great. That was a highlight of the movie for me, for sure. And it didn't look, I don't know, it didn't look phony or whatever, or like he wasn't fighting hard or anything. It was a good fight.
Yeah. No, like you were watching it like, oh yeah, that's Odin's wife.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and she damn near had him beat, but Curse shows up and manhandles her, and Malekith tries to grab Jane, but she's just a projection that Frigga had conjured, so that was a cool trick, which I had also forgotten about. Then he asks Frigga where the Aether is.
Where is the ether?
I'll never tell you.
I believe you.
And then the Curse kills her by stabbing her in the back, which was pretty ice cold.
Yeah.
But that whole exchange there where he's just like, I believe you. I don't know. That's good writing to me. I like that.
That's kind of badass to me.
It sucks that she's dead, but it's a cool thing to have in the movie. You know what I mean? Yeah. So Thor was just getting there, and now he's pissed. So he blasts Malekith with some lightning.
Melts off half his face.
Yeah.
And then though Thor throws Mjolnir at Malekith and cursed, and somehow they still managed to get away. And that part kind of annoys me too, because I was just like, why? Like Mjolnir would have ripped through their ship's hull easy if it just kept going in a straight line.
Yeah. So he throws Mjolnir a couple of times, I think. In the first one, it biffs Cursed in the back, which that should have wrecked him, right?
It should have.
But I'll let that one go. I mean, they were jumping off of something and whatever. Maybe it knocked them over more. I'm not sure. I'm kind of giving that one a pass. The second throw, it is going straight for the ship, but then the ship disappears either through a portal or it cloaks. I'm not sure. Either way, I feel like Mjolnir could have kept going.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe Thor was like, oh, they got away and called it back. I'm not sure.
But see, I feel like Thor wouldn't have called it back until like he knew it hit something, right?
Yeah.
And then like later in the movie, Mjolnir almost goes to space because he was looking for Thor because Thor teleported to another.
Oh yeah.
To another place. So Mjolnir actually had to come back from like orbit when Thor popped back into Earth.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's like the distance thing. Like I don't know. They wrote this scene pretty badly for me.
Yeah, I agree. It's pretty bad. I just didn't think it was as bad as you think it is.
Yeah.
So despite Thor's efforts, Malekith escapes.
And then Asgard is sad because Frigga is dead.
Yeah, I was sad because Frigga was dead.
I was sad too. And Odin seemed especially distraught. And then Loki also receives the news, and he also does not take it very well.
Yeah, I mean, all that's to be expected.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, oh shit, is this a Viking funeral? That's metal as hell. I loved it. They send Frigga off, and I guess there was some other people who died probably. They all get sent off properly, although they all go off the edge of flat Asgard. And, it's just reminded like, how does all that water get recycled back? I don't know.
Well, at least it's movie magic here.
Yeah.
I never understood the flat earther theories, period.
No.
So back to Midgard, and Eric is teaching a class on the convergence using some shoes, except he's in an asylum.
So, yeah, Selvig was arrested at Selvig had been arrested at Stonehenge for running around naked with some scientific equipment that he had invented. And he's looking disheveled as he's explaining the convergence. And he says something to the effect of,
but if this happens to us now, the result will be cataclysmic. My gravimetric spikes can stabilize the focal point of the convergence. This time, the alignment and all the other worlds would just pass us by.
Which is all just movie talk.
And then he asks any questions, and Stan Lee, who actually was paying attention in his audience, says,
yeah, can I have my shoe back?
Because he's using
That was good.
it.
That was a good use of Stan Lee, I thought.
Yeah.
Although at this point, I had realized that the movie wasn't even half over, and that was worrisome to me. It was starting to lose me. So, back at Asgard, Jane has a bad CG vision of a dark world future or something. I don't know. I thought it was pretty unnecessary. Nothing ever comes to that, right? Like she's got the vision of all of Asgard being kind of
red,
like
or dark.
Yeah, like this
Red
crimson
and black.
color thing.
Yeah.
So Thor has a plan to take Jane to Svartalheim away from Asgard. And he says that when Malekith withdraws the Aether from Jane, that Thor will destroy it and he'll destroy Malekith. And Odin's like, nah, we'll fight to the last Asgardian. And Thor asks how Odin is different from Malekith then. And Odin just says the difference is I'll win.
I don't know about you, but when I was listening to this, I was like, I gotta admit, Odin's plan seems much better. And at least with Odin's plan, they have the might of all the Asgardian soldiers helping them. So I didn't really see why it was such a, I don't know.
I didn't
That
think
was such a bad
either.
thing.
I didn't think either plan sounded particularly good, but I mean, Odin he seemed like he was still in the anger stage of grief and is lashing out.
And then I didn't really like seeing Idris Elba start being whiny because he couldn't see the ships, except he did, so I don't get
he
it.
saw that one for sure. Or
Yeah, he sensed them.
he could sense it, yeah. Well, it wouldn't be a Thor movie if there wasn't any treason involved, so Thor asks Heimdall to commit treason of the highest order. Sif and the Warriors too are in on it. Apparently, Hogun retired back in Vanheim after that battle.
He's just Thor told him to take a break.
Okay, he's like,
Yeah.
you sit this one out, buddy.
Yeah.
Odin orders the Bifrost routers to be put on standby. In other words, the Bifrost is shut down. And of course, there are other ways in and out of Asgard. And I was stoked that they were finally going to clip this dangling thread from Thor 1. Like, they kept talking about it and nothing, like, not explaining it.
Right.
Thor gets Loki out of the dungeon because he has knowledge of these alternate routes.
And I think actually this is, for me, probably one of the best scenes in the movie. Especially
It's
when he
another
switches
highlight
it
for
up.
sure.
Yeah, it's definitely on the highlight reel for this movie. Especially when he switches it up as Captain America and Chris Evans makes that cameo.
Yeah, so as they are taking their leisurely stroll out of the dungeon, Loki does a little trickery where he looks like Captain America and says how much he likes the uniform and stuff. And it's pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
Sif gets Jane out of hiding, and Heimdall reports himself for treason as part of the plan, I think.
I think it was to make Odin and the other guards come to him.
Okay.
And then which would mean that they're on the farthest side away from.
I see. Okay.
Because he's way over here, and
right.
main Asgard's like over here.
Yeah. Okay. That's better than I thought. Because I was just like, his part of the plan is to not rat them out since he can't see all, or right. since he can see all. Because he doesn't do anything else, right? Beyond this, like, he's kind of out of the movie at this point.
Yeah.
And let's see, Sif holds off some guards.
It's very obvious that, like, they really, the MCU and Thor series really just such a waste with Lady Sif's potential, just as a fighter.
Yeah. Well, after she almost took out the Destroyer, in the first Thor, I feel like. I guess she was kicking ass at the beginning of this movie, but yeah, they could use her more. Better.
There's no it's no wonder they call her Sif and the Warriors 3, because she's definitely the headliner out of that 4.
Yeah. So at this point, I was kind of confused because the plan looked stupid to me. It seemed like the plan was to fly the crashed dark elf ship out of there. So, like, why did they break Loki out for that?
Yeah.
And then Thor, Loki, and Jane do fly away in the dark elf ship. And she passes out. Jane passes out, like, pretty much right away. And then Loki's complaining about what a dumbass plan it is, and he's not wrong. So also, like, as they're escaping, certainly there's Asgardians who have been hurt and or killed.
Yeah.
I guess the argument is that it's better than if Malekith gets a hold of the Aether. But, you know, the lives of the many outweigh the lives of the few, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. At that point, they're escaping in the ship, and Thor shoves Loki out of the ship, then grabs Jane and jumps out with her. And they all land on some little ship that Fandral is piloting, and he's there to make sure that they don't get vaccinated. And now Loki's going to take them to the secret pathway. So finally, we're going to fight. This is going to be awesome, right? I've been waiting for this. And of course, they're pursued. And then they drive into a tiny hole in the mountain and kind of Bifrost jump to Svartalheim. And that was the whole thing.
Yeah. And that's what I just didn't get it. So that tunnel just happens to be a rainbow bridge to anywhere convenient. And in this case, the Dark Elves. Because I'm assuming in Thor 1, it was to the realm of the Frost Giants.
Right? My assumption was that this particular little hole in the mountain goes to Svartalheim, and there's another one somewhere else that goes to
maybe
whatever the Frost Giant land is called. I forget. So that is my assumption, but it's not really a whole lot better.
Right. I mean, that's a lot of security holes in Asgard.
Yeah. So they're in Svartalheim now, and now Malekith knows that the ether has found its way home. Then in Midgard, Darcy gets Selvig out of the loony bin, and he tells her the convergence is happening sooner than he calculated.
Man, I just really think it's a damn shame how senselessly silly they just seem to make Eric Selvig. I know in the movie that they explain it away as like Loki was in his head, you know, during the Avengers movie.
That's how I explain it away.
But like, would that have messed him up enough for him to like run around naked in Stonehenge? Like, there's some things that some of that stuff, like his
It is a little
complete
silly.
flip,
Yeah.
the complete 180 from brilliant genius scientist to, nut job was a little bit much for me.
Yeah. In Svartalheim, Malekith confronts Thor, Loki, and Jane. And with the help of some trickery by Loki, they get Malekith to draw the Aether out of Jane. However, Thor is unable to destroy it. And it does go into Malekith, who immediately pieces out. And that plan did not work.
I figured it was going to fail to begin with. But anyway, I did like the part of the plan where I really actually thought Loki did betray Thor when he stabbed him and then cut off his hand right when he was reaching for Mjolnir. I thought that was pretty sick.
Yeah.
And so Thor ends up, I guess, while Malekith is walking to his ship, Thor starts fighting what's left of Malekith's army, and Loki actually saves Jane from one of those black hole grenades.
Mm-hmm.
And almost looks like he's about to get sucked into them, but Thor saves Loki from that same black hole grenade. And then I just don't get this part where Thor just gets his ass handed to him by Cursed.
Yeah.
By this last curse, because it just makes no sense. Like in the very beginning of this movie, I think about 4 to 5 Asgardians with their dinky little spears took out that last cursed guy. And so how'd Thor get beat so bad? Because Thor's easily stronger than 10 Asgardian soldiers on their best day, and he has Mjolnir. And even Mjolnir just got knocked aside.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like Thor should have been able to kick the cursed ass with one hand tied behind his back. It should have been no contest. He fought Hulk before and won. And it fights him in Ragnarok and wins. Yeah, I agree with you. It turns out also though that Loki's a pretty good fighter. He's got some good moves with the knife.
Yes.
At some point he spears the cursed, who then turns around and grabs Loki and like brings him into himself, spearing Loki as well. Then Loki falls to the ground and says,
"See you in hell, monster."
And I don't know how to describe it, but I guess he pulled the pin or whatever on one of the black hole grenades that was still attached to the cursed. And then it's curtains for the cursed, which I thought that was pretty cool how they took him out.
Yeah, I like that way of taking. I mean, clearly because they'd made him so overpowered that Thor couldn't stop him.
Yeah.
It was a creative way to take care of him.
Yeah.
Did you notice how everything was playing out very similarly to the play in Ragnarok?
Oh no, I haven't watched that scene in a while.
Oh man, I
nice.
like rewatched it just for the hell of it,
That's
just
funny.
because
I'll have
of
to
this,
check that
because I
out.
wanted to see how much in the play when they're doing that like that high pitched thing. It's from this movie too.
No, that's funny.
I just noticed it. I was like,
I have to watch that immediately.
Yeah.
So Frigga's dead, and now Loki's dead, and it's been a real asshole of a day for Thor.
Yeah.
And this movie is long. It still had 30 minutes to go, including credits at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess Loki's dead. Jane and Thor are pretty much left behind in Vanaheim. And randomly, Richard Dude calls Jane while they're seemingly trapped in a cave.
Mm-hmm.
And coincidentally, all the shoes and random things from the portals in London that have not been returning show up in that cave.
Right.
So Jane knows exactly where she is. And so they just keep walking, and then they poof their way back to England.
I feel like it was simultaneously lame, but also convenient, or like convenient for the viewer. So we can just get on with the movie. That is how they got back. I mean, it kind of makes sense, but it's a little hokey.
Right. All the caves.
Yeah.
all the caves in Vanaheim, and they picked this one.
The portals, and yeah. Elsewhere on Vanaheim, you see someone. Sorry, it's not Vanaheim. It's fucking.
Svartalheim.
Svartalheim, yeah. Elsewhere on Svartalheim, you see someone that you can't tell who it is, but it's definitely Loki. Do the hologram change thingy the way that Loki does, and he looks like a regular old Asgardian guard. He goes to Asgard and tells Odin that there's no sign of Thor or Mjolnir, but that Loki is dead.
Yep.
Back in Midgard, Selvig, Thor, and Jane discuss how the convergence will amplify the power of the Aether. But there's a limited time window for that. So Malekith needs to be in exactly the right place at the right time. And Selvig knows how to find that place. And yeah, like when he goes, I'd better get my pants. He's
He does it right after Thor gets
whities.
He does it right after Thor gets Mjolnir.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I thought he said, I better get my pants.
Yeah, that's funny. That's even funnier, actually.
Yeah. But yeah, so turns out the very fabric of reality is about to get ripped apart in Greenwich, apparently.
Yeah, it's pretty convenient that it was so nearby.
Okay.
They go and start setting up some equipment, and then Malekith's ship shows up out of nowhere or through a portal, I guess, and crashes into the city. And why this isn't the impetus for getting the Avengers back together again is beyond me. Come on, Nick Fury.
Yeah. Iron Man should have showed up an hour later at the very least.
Yeah, he hadn't destroyed all his suits yet.
Yeah.
So Malekith comes out of the ship, and I thought he looked awesome here because now he's got the half of his face that's messed up from when Thor hit him with the lightning, and then like the effects of the ether, he's like kind of like all black. I don't know, he looks like he's made out of charcoal. I thought he looked really cool. And Thor promptly gets his ass handed to him by Malekith, who does like these nanobot swarm looking attacks or whatever. I'm not saying they're actual nanobots. That's what it looked like. I would have preferred something a little more well defined. Some, powers of the ether. I don't know.
They look like little splooches of ether.
Yeah, it was
ether missiles, I guess.
It was weird, but he's like super tough now or whatever.
Yeah.
Selvig and Jane are doing some things, manipulating portals with the gravity spikes, transporting elves and whatnot, here and there. Jane starts to explain it, but it's totally unnecessary. Just like there's no amount of scientific explanation is going to make this believable. So let's just leave it alone.
Yes. Not even Natalie Portman could save that.
No. The whole portal thing gets a little ridiculous. All the teleporting from one place to another kind of reminded me of something else too. I want to say it might have been like Everything Everywhere All at Once. Did you see that?
I did see that.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of that. But in that, they're not teleporting really. They're just going to like different.
They're switching all realities.
Yeah,
almost,
yeah,
right?
yeah. But it was like a similar thing where they like fall from one scene into another.
Yeah.
It was done better in Everything Everywhere All at Once, in my opinion.
Yeah. A lot better.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. This whole movie went downhill here for me.
Yeah. I agree.
This fight just didn't do anything for me too, because for a guy that supposedly weaponized, like the first guy to weaponize the ether, this Malekith guy really sucked. Like Thanos, I think within a day of having it, he was already using the Reality Stone way better than Malekith did over here.
Yeah.
With the ether fully inside of Malekith, Thor really shouldn't have stood a chance against Malekith, period.
No, yeah, I agree. I mean, Thor does get his ass kicked, but it should have been even less of a contest.
Right, like he could have just done what Thanos did to Drax and Mantis and just turn them into cubes.
Well, so here's my question though, because it wasn't the Reality Stone yet. It's the ether. So is it a different thing? I guess I got way off on a tangent on this.
Yeah.
All the stones have some sort of a containment, right? You got Space Stone is in the Tesseract, Mind Stone's in the Scepter, Reality Stone is the ether, or I don't. That one's a little weird. Power Stone is contained by the Orb. Time Stone is in the Eye of Agamotto, and the Soul Stone is another weird one. I guess all of Vormir contains that. I'm not sure. We don't see a whole lot of that stone. So are all the stone's powers muted by these quote unquote containers? And so is that why he can't just do all the reality things that Thanos does when it's actually the stone? Also, isn't the gauntlet supposed to help like channel the energy and the powers of each of the stones? I don't know.
It was supposed to contain all 5 of the stones at the same time.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But I mean, isn't it also supposed to help you to direct the power? I don't know. I might be overreaching
I guess
here.
so. The only difference was that the ether wasn't in a stone form when Malekith was using it, and it was when Thanos was using it.
Right.
So I don't know.
I had an even further tangent, but I think I'm going to try to save that for Guardians of the Galaxy because that's coming up soon. It's more applicable to that. I got to remember to put it in there.
Anyway, yeah.
Anyways, back to the fighting.
I did like the subway scene. I thought that was kind of funny. When
yes,
I think he teleports back and he's in the subway.
Yeah.
And he goes, "How do I get back to Greenwich?" And that lady volunteers, just take this train.
Take this train 3 stops, and then he does.
How do I get to Greenwich?
Take this train 3 stops.
Yeah, and then she like does the fake falling into him thing so she could feel his chest.
Oh yeah. I forgot about that.
I really do think that Chris Hemsworth his comedic timing is just pretty funny because he does that little smirk that's just perfect for that scene.
And I think that, I mean, I know we've talked about Ragnarok quite a bit, but I think that's part of why Ragnarok is so great is to give him the opportunity to be funny more.
Yeah.
You know, and without it being corny. Anyways, I thought that was really funny. I had a note in that. I had a note about that too. So now the worlds are aligning, and this results in a disc-like shape that now does actually look like a portal, like you would think of a portal, like a lens into another world. Malekith is doing something with the ether, making this swirling crimson cloud, and Thor comes back. He gets off the subway, apparently. Thor comes back, and Jane says that they're too late. And then they reason that if Thor can get close enough with Sylvig's devices, then he could stop Malekith. And I don't know, it seemed like a stretch to me, and everything having to do with Sylvig and his devices are basically the MacGuffin for this movie.
This is why Thor 2 just didn't make it for me.
Yeah.
There's just all of these weird, just randomness. So like Thor confronts Malekith in this crimson cloud, and Thor takes all 3 of the teleport spear thingies and basically teleports Malekith's different body parts. Just gives them the shaft.
Yeah.
And it's fight over.
Yeah. So how that worked was Jane would remote control the devices and portal away his parts. It looked like it was like one arm, then the other arm, and then there's like a pretty cool final blow Thor has with Mjolnir, where he hits Malekith in the chest and knocks him back, and then he plants the device in Malekith's chest, and Jane teleports him away. And then we're going to find out in a little bit that basically he's teleported to Svartalheim.
Yeah.
And then Malekith's ship is starting to fall over onto Thor, who's just passed out from the fight. He's so exhausted. And Jane tries to drag him out of the way, but can't. And then she lays down on top of him. Like, I don't know if she was trying to protect him or she's like, I want to die with him. But I would have assumed that he was going to survive this either way.
Right.
Because he's a god or
he's an Asgardian.
Yeah. But anyways, so instead of that happening, it's kind of hokey. Sylvig controls a portal so that the ship falls through it, and then it falls onto Malekith in Svartalheim. And for whatever reason, that finally kills Malekith. I don't know, whatever.
I was still at the how did he even control the portal to teleport the whole ship? Yeah. It's not like one of his doohickeys was right there.
No, it was. It was entirely like I said before. Like it's just a MacGuffin to wrap up this movie.
Yeah.
So after all that, it seems like Thor just left because then we see Jane and Selvig and Darcy in some apartment, and Darcy says he's going to come back. And then we see in Asgard, Thor has to deal with a bunch of stuff on account of the treason and all. Odin says that what Thor did saved all 9 realms, so check that off his list. And then he should be king now, and asks Thor, what can Asgard offer the new king? And Thor just wants to not be king. Thor says he'll protect Asgard still, but can't rule. And he says,
I'd rather be a good man than a great king.
And I feel like he got that backwards. Like, shouldn't it be, I'd rather be a great man than a good king, right?
I think so.
Because, I don't know, that would make more sense to me. Thor offers up Mjolnir, but Odin says it belongs to him as long as he's worthy of it. And I was just glad that they didn't do the movie trope of Odin pretending to be all mad about the treason at first and then being like, oh, it's okay because you saved the 9 realms or whatever, right? They just got right to finishing this movie. So maybe I should get right to finishing this podcast.
I took it as he didn't launch into all of the treason because it was Loki.
Oh, yes, of course. Yes.
You're like, there was Loki the whole time because
Yeah.
Loki.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, Loki had ambushed what do you call it, Odin by then, after he had given news of his own death.
Yes, I don't know. I didn't think past my thought. I mean, they do the reveal right after that, and didn't bother to think back about what I had just said. Yeah. So as Thor leaves, Odin turns into Loki. So you know that Loki's okay.
Yep.
I guess we already kind of knew that he was okay. But shouldn't he have waited for Thor to actually be out of the room?
Oh, 100%.
I mean, I guess Thor didn't see or hear it because there's a little bit of noise that he makes when he's doing that little transformation.
Yeah.
But this sets up Ragnarok nicely. That's not until phase 3, so we got a little bit of wait for that, but obviously we're both looking forward to that one. But I was surprised that they gave away that Loki is alive at the end of this one. Although I feel like if they waited till Ragnarok, I would have been like, oh, that's a retcon.
Yeah. I mean, it would have been like this one, right? Like they waited, like Loki was supposedly dead by Thor 1 at the end of Thor 1, and then we had to wait till. Wait, when did we find out he was back? He was alive again. Avengers.
Yeah. When he was like, you threw me into an abyss. Like, you let go. Anyways, so in the end, I thought it was a pretty decent denouement.
Yeah,
I do like a bleak ending. So maybe not quite bleak enough, but pretty good. So then we have the credits, which I thought the credits were kind of a cool style. It was like these painted storyboard looking things.
Yeah, I like that. Oh, and then the mid-credit stinger. Everybody's at the collector's.
Mm-hmm.
Sif and Volstagg take the ether and they give it to the collector for safekeeping. And that never made sense to me. I know that Volstagg explains it as it's never smart to hold 2 Infinity Stones right next to each other.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like the collector, just by his name alone, should have been the last person to give an Infinity Stone to. Because you're going to want the other 4. And I don't know. I don't know. I'm a huge fan of Benicio del Toro in like Sicario, but like these really weird, wacky roles, I'm not so much a fan. Like he's a little over the top for me.
I like them here. I do know what you mean about some other weird, wacky roles, but I like them here. And I originally took your comment about like why would you give it to a collector?
Right.
I guess I didn't understand it because I was like, well, if he's a collector, he's not likely to give it up. But yeah, he's going to want the other ones. And I guess he does
want to complete the set.
he does say 1 down, 5 to go.
Yep.
So yeah, I guess that not the smartest move. Is this the first mention of Infinity Stones in the MCU? Because Volstagg does say it's not wise to keep 2 Infinity Stones so close together, and because they have the Space Stone in the Tesseract.
Yeah,
I think that's
so.
the first time that they mention Infinity Stones. So it's weird
when
that
they actually say the 2 words Infinity Stones
together.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen the Tesseract obviously in other things, and the scepter that has the Mind Stone is in the Avengers, but I don't think they even say that it has the Mind Stone in it at that point. So
that's not till Avengers 2,
right?
Actually, yeah.
So I thought it was a pretty good mid-credit stinger. And again, I didn't remember that Guardians of the Galaxy was phase 2, but 2 movies from now, we're going to get to it. So
that's pretty exciting.
Yeah. I mean, we got 2 bangers in a row coming up. We got Captain America, Winter Soldier, and then Guardians of the Galaxy. So there's going to be, for the listener who's had to listen to us complain quite a bit, the last episode and this one, it's going to get better, at least for 2 more episodes.
Yeah,
I can't promise no complaints, but it's going to be a lot more positive.
And I'm really glad because I was really worried about phase 2 with these 2.
It was not a great start. I'm grateful that it didn't go like chronologically within the timeline, because then it would have been this and then Iron Man 3, and it would have been like Thor 2 was bad, Iron Man 3 was awful.
Right.
Anyways, so then we get a post-credit stinger. It's Jane and company in her apartment. She hears thunder. She looks up. She sees the Bifrost, and Thor shows up, and then they make out. Totally unnecessary. They should have stopped where they were headed with the mid-credit stinger, in my opinion.
I agree.
Changes we'd like to have seen. I would have liked to see the 3rd act cleaned up a bit, just tidy it up. I actually left out parts of it in our notes. Like there was a whole thing with military jets trying to attack Malekith's ship. and didn't matter. Like, we didn't need to discuss it at all. Like, they're just there at one point, and then I think when the battle's over, they show them fly by again at the end. Like, cut out more stuff like that. You know, make this movie a little shorter and a little neater, and maybe make it a little more sense. Make a little more sense. But
we didn't need a reminder that Earth technology was useless against
exactly.
Dark Elves and Asgardians.
Yes. Did you have anything for any changes other than make it better?
No, I just think that the last 2/3 of the movie
more Frigga
could have. Yeah, after Frigga died, everything was just downhill for me.
I would say the last third for me really went downhill, but
the last third was definitely a race to the.
Okay, then let's move on to the ranking. Do you want to do your final thoughts on it, or was that your final thought there, basically? Last 2/3?
You mean final thought as in where I think it would be in our rank?
Yeah, more or less. I mean, we don't have to necessarily say the rank yet, but like what you're thinking about that's influencing where it's going to go.
I'm thinking that it's nowhere near as bad as I thought it would be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was still bad, but I'm definitely torn as to how close to the bottom this is.
I have a similar problem.
Yeah.
So I thought the first 2/3 of the movie is pretty good, and then it goes off the rails. Not boring, but it was clearly forgettable because this is the first time I remembered what happened. It's not nearly as offensive as Iron Man 3.
Agreed.
And in some ways, I feel like this is the start of the Infinity Saga, because now we're talking about Infinity Stones. You know, it's really starting to take off here, 8 movies in. The Rotten Tomatoes scores are not horrible. 67% with the critics, 75% with the audience. That is lower than Iron Man 3, but we discussed that Iron Man 3 was rated way too high.
Yeah.
From bottom to top, our current rank looks like Iron Man 3, Iron Man 2, The Incredible Hulk, The Avengers, Thor, Captain America, the First Avenger, and then Iron Man at the top. So I thought we'd make this interesting, which is code for let's drag it out a little bit. and just kind of work our way up the list here.
Mm-hmm.
I think we both agree that it's better than Iron Man 3.
Oh,
right?
Easily. Yeah.
All right. So do you think it's better or worse than Iron Man 2?
So I was actually agonizing over this entire podcast.
Me too.
Because I was trying to figure out, I don't know if it's better than Iron Man 2. But then I started thinking about Iron Man 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that the suitcase, the briefcase armor, pushes it out a little bit for me. And Rhodey finally being War Machine, just barely by like a pube's length of hair, put Iron Man 2 just a little bit over.
I had more fun. I had more fun with Iron Man 2.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Yeah. So for me, Iron Man 2 is better than Thor 2. But Thor 2 is better than Hulk. But because of your ranking, because you won some disagreements, the Incredible Hulk is above Iron Man 2. So now, do I want to put it above Incredible Hulk and have it be better than Incredible Hulk, or do I want to put it below Iron Man 2? And I think I gotta put it between Iron Man 2 and Iron Man 3. Is that where you're thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I was gonna be a jerk and just go with whatever, go with the opposite and have it come down to playing the Infinity Saga Trivial Pursuit Poker. But if I win, I'd be like, oh no, I should have put it below Iron Man 2. So I think we agree that it's our new number 7 then, above Iron Man 3 and below Iron Man 2.
Yep.
Okay.
That's where I'm thinking it goes.
All right. So that's settled. That was a good discussion on that. So let's do Infinity Saga Trivial Pursuit Poker for fun, if you don't mind.
Sure.
All right, let's read them. Okay. I'm ready when you are.
I'm having an off day, man.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, it's your turn to bid first.
Is it? Didn't I bid first last time?
Let me double check, but I'm pretty sure you ended up.
I thought
I bid first. I bid first. I said 2, and then you said 4, which you probably should have said 3, and then you would have won. But
yeah.
Anyways, Yeah, so it's your turn to bid first, and then if I don't bid higher, then
I mean, I can only really bid. I can only bid one that I know of. That I'm pretty sure I know of.
Well, since it doesn't matter, I'm going to bid 2 because I know the one that you know. And then I don't want to let you win just for that. So let me send you the answers. I'll text that to you in 1 second. You're going to have to flip it over. It's upside down to make it harder for me to accidentally read. All right.
Cool.
Okay. Ready when you are.
I'll read the question.
Yep.
All right. T'Challa said the Black Panther mantle had been passed from warrior to warrior for how long?
I'm going to say 300 years. Total guess.
It was actually just generations.
Oh.
It wasn't even a specific time period.
Oh.
Just generations. That feels like a cop-out.
Oh, the answer is generations?
The answer is just generations.
Oh, okay. That's what I was going to say. At first I was going to say thousands of years just to like be vague, but okay. All right. That's fine.
Yeah. Generations is even more vague.
Yeah.
All right. What is written on Dr. Samuel Stern's t-shirt? I would have thought you'd get this.
I don't know it, but I want to guess. So he becomes not Brainiac. Who does he become? He becomes
the
leader. That's probably not related to that. What is written on his shirt? I'm gonna say E equals MC squared.
No. Science magnet.
Nice. I want that shirt now.
That's why I thought you would have got it because I know you're into shirts.
I didn't notice it. I probably would have bought that shirt. I would have been wearing it.
Yeah. All right. What is the name of the alien army that Loki hopes to use to conquer Earth?
This is the one that I do know, and it's the one I think you knew.
Yeah.
And that is the Chitauri.
Yep. Correct. What is the name of the Asgardian refugee vessel?
That one I don't know. I feel like I should know it. I don't know. The Odin's beard.
Nope. The Statesman. It was only mentioned really briefly during the SOS.
Yes, that's the thing. Like, I forget if that's at the end of Ragnarok or the beginning of Endgame, but yeah.
Yep. What child lives at 840 Winter Street in San Francisco?
Is it Ant-Man's daughter? Does that count?
It is.
Do I have to come up with her name?
No, because they replaced her 2 times. Or no, they replaced her once already.
But I mean, it's the same character, right?
The same character. Yes.
Are we counting that or no?
Up to you. Would you give it to me if it were reversed?
Oh, wait. Oh, what is her name? I just had it too. Would I give it to you if it was? I'd probably give it to you, to be honest.
All right, Cassie Lang.
Cassie, yes. Yeah.
Scott Lang's daughter.
All right.
And
I mean, certainly if it was reversed and it didn't count for the ranking, I would definitely have given it to you. Okay.
Fair.
Okay, so I got 2, sweet.
So you got 2 so far, going for 3. Do you know what kind of damage is making the palladium core in Tony Stark's arc reactor smoke?
Is radiation a definite enough answer for that? Or is this?
Well, the answer is specifically neutron damage.
Okay, that's a kind of radiation, but all right. Well,
it is. Oh, so you got it. You got more than 2.
I won't take the point for that one. I bid 2. I got 2. I'll take the kind to win. That doesn't matter. Sweet. All right. That is it for Thor: The Dark World. Next up, we have Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
I'm excited for this one.
Oh, dude, I already started it. You should be excited for it. From April 2014, it was about a 6-month wait. It's 10 years ago today, where it's 4/4/14. Yeah, 10 years ago today. We just missed, if we had started the podcast a few weeks earlier, we could have done it. I've actually looked to see if it got re-released in theaters for the 10-year anniversary, and it did not.
They should. I'm surprised Marvel didn't do that with more of their MCU movies.
I just went and saw The Matrix today for the 25th anniversary, actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So normally this would be it, but today we have more. We got an email from Majors. He's a rather prolific emailer for the Retro Game Club podcast, which I help out on.
Sweet.
And he sent us the good old-fashioned compliment sandwich, which I always appreciate. I did get his permission to read this, so anybody else who wants to write in, I won't read it on the show unless you say it's okay. So, Major says, thank you both for entertaining me for a couple of hours on the 10-hour drive up to New Jersey last weekend. Even though I'm not a huge Marvel fan, your banter is fun to listen to. I think I know most of my Marvel knowledge from playing Capcom Fighters.
I play that too.
Oh, nice. I had one little comment on the co-writer director of Avengers. I'm not up to date with the Hollywood drama surrounding him, but I gather from the context in your show that it's bad. And I'm going to interject here real quick. It's mostly what he did was mostly mistreating people, and I think some light to moderate misogyny, which is not great, but not like truly, truly awful,
Not Harvey Weinstein bad.
Yeah, exactly. And so I don't think it was anything illegal, if I recall correctly. I might not, but still not great. He's still a piece of shit. Then back to what Majors says. That being said, you mentioned the director a lot in conversation, usually with an added dig. This reminded me of the historical period of Pharaoh Akhenaten. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Akhenaten decided to change the Egyptian religion to semi-monotheism. This was not liked by the people, and after his death, they removed a lot of his statues and any written records of Akhenaten by chiseling out his name. Even in 1350s BC, folks be retconning. I like that. That's funny. My point is, if you don't like someone, maybe it's best you just not mention them and let their name be forgotten to history. I think it's best to focus on the movie you're discussing rather than the surrounding controversy, unless, of course, it is relevant to the content of the film. Of course, it's your show. I'm not trying to be political or SJ woke or whatever, just my observations. Remember, you do ask for feedback.
We do.
So, first, I'm glad that we could provide the entertainment, and like the comment about the banter is exactly what we're going for with the show. I mean, that's why I wanted to do this, because we were always talking about this stuff just in text or in person. I thought it would be a halfway decent podcast at least. I also appreciate the history lesson. I thought it was interesting. I did not know that. Regarding He Who Shall Not Be Named, personally, I didn't think that we were focusing on it, but absolutely, I was taking a lot of digs at him primarily for entertainment purposes. The director is an easy target for the disappointing aspects of the film. The guy's already been canceled, so I don't know. I guess justice has been done. Also, I cut out a bunch of stuff, so to me, it wasn't a whole lot of material on the guy, but I'll send you the uncut sometime, Majors. But his point is well taken. No promises there won't be a repeat performance for Avengers 2, which is the same director, but we'll try to keep it to a minimum.
Right.
And sorry, did you have anything else to add?
I was going to say it is easier, I guess, with the Egyptian time period to just chisel out somebody's name and to knock down his statues to kind of erase them. It's near impossible in the digital age.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, I get his point. It's like, if you don't like him, why you talk about him? And for me, it was just, it's entertainment purposes. I've
totally fair.
I chat with Majors offline pretty frequently, so like this is a very friendly email. I take no offense, and I do appreciate the feedback. He makes a good point.
I'm curious if we're going overboard with Zachary Levi.
Well, I'm sure he'll let us know. Well, unfortunately, we don't have to talk about him anymore, right?
True, because he dies in Ragnarok.
Yep. So I did want to say thanks for being a listener, Majors, and thanks for the email.
Ditto, thank you.
Yeah. Speaking of email, if you want to be cool like Majors, you can email us at absolutelythebestpodcast@gmail.com. Check the show notes for our socials and ways to help support the show. I might leave this in, I might cut it out, but we have a Discord now, maybe. We might have a Discord by the time I was thinking about starting a Discord. Are you on Discord at all?
Yeah, I'm on Discord.
Okay. It's easy to set up. I just don't know if anybody's gonna
jump in and
join it. So, anyways, and I don't know if I'm gonna get to it before this drops. So, anyways, check out the show notes for our Discord if you want to join us on Discord. Leave us a review. Please help us spread the word. Tell your friends. Tell an amnesiac and tell a dark elf. Thank you for listening and have a great day.
Peace.
Absolutely the Best Podcast is a production of Audio Johnny, a subsidy of Corporation Johnny. Corporation Johnny. If it exists, we own it.